for your pleasure. Newspapers coming your way. Going to start this morning with the Irish Examiner, Rebels with a Cause. So this is a photograph last night. GAA family comes together to support Kieran O'Connor. Kilkenny and Cork played a challenge. It's interesting, Tommy Walsh said that Kilkenny don't really do challenges around this time of year, but they made an exception obviously when they heard about what was going on with Kieran O'Connor's rare form of cancer. Cork ended up beating Kilkenny. Sounds like a bit of a cracker, 127 to 23 points. So I'd say both management teams were taking that as an opportunity to do something more interesting than a training session. Chris Farrell fired up for Champions Cup auditorium, and chalk and cheese. Danes wary of New Ireland after defensive O'Neill. So it turns out that Denmark think Ireland aren't crap anymore. Things have changed.
No, it's just Christian Eriksen who thinks we're crap. I want to start a campaign. I'm sorry to all my fellow Arsenal fans out there, but I'm now a Tottenham Hotspur fan. I've jumped ship. I'm going across London. Shinier new stadium, newer stadium, better team. Well, kind of. And I'm getting behind them. Spurs to win the Champions League. Please, please, please make it happen. And then Spurs to go on the mother of all benders for the 6 or 7 days that follow, right up until Denmark versus Ireland. Take Christian Eriksen out of that situation, and we come away from Copenhagen with 1 point, and Euro 2020 is on. We don't need to make a decision, as Liam Brady puts it. We can just, right into the the Euro 2020 sunset ourselves. The Irish Independent says Doherty must wait for change. McCarthy confirms Coleman and Stevens will retain starting berths for now. No malice in Canning challenge, says Jamie Barron. And Laporte talking about Ronan O'Gara. Brunel must make a decision if he wants Rog.
It's a pretty interesting scenario down there where the current head coach is being told that it's your choice. You can take Ronan O'Gara. You better take Ronan O'Gara, which is good for Rog, I guess. Barca, United, Bayern, PSG, Juve. It's your call. Hudson-Odoi, 18, suddenly the most in-demand kid in Europe. Mick's coping well so far. So let's see how Danes handle us is the headline on not quite a tab of the morning to you. Mick McCarthy believes a rejuvenated Republic of Ireland can sabotage Denmark's qualification hopes. So we're playing up our role as the underdogs, and why not? Because we are. We know that.
Inside the Herald this morning, they lead with Doc has to wait his turn. We've also got nothing to fear for Randolph in Denmark, and Robbie Brady's been quoted here as well, saying that he's getting back to his best. So encouraging news from his perspective.
Annabelle Fly all set to shoulder top weight in Grand National after Bristol de Mai switch is the front of the Racing Post, and ready to roar. The future looks bright for exciting 3 lions. So England full of good young players and not getting carried away. Oh wait, yes they are.
The Irish Daily Star goes with double fault. FAI facing fine over tennis ball protest. Association and Delaney are at loggerheads. Let's make history, says Jurgen Klopp. The Premier League is back this weekend. And Carl O'Kane is writing about Pillar Caffrey's comments on Shane Stapleton's Gaelic Football show yesterday, talking about Diarmuid Connolly, that if he does the business for St Vincent's in their local championship clashes, he will be part of Dublin's drive for 5.
All right, so that's like I think that, I know that. It's more definitive.
I think that. I'd still say Jim is looking to beef up the panel in some shape. There is not a supporter of Dublin football that wouldn't love to see a fit Nabil Rory O'Carroll back, and also a fit Nabil Diarmuid Connolly back and offering something.
Turmoil in FAI is the back page headline in Philip Quinn's piece. So this is good. Philip Quinn has some details here of exactly what's going on. He says senior figures in the FAI are understood to be divided over the future of former CEO John Delaney. There were further talks among FAI chiefs at Abbottstown yesterday about Delaney's role as the new executive vice president. Interesting that the subs have yet to capitalise executive vice president, so it's just like, it's not a real thing until it's capital E, capital V, capital P. But it follows Tuesday's FAI board meeting at the Castleknock Hotel, because there were no details about this board meeting really emerging just yesterday. So obviously various journalists have done a bit of digging in the last 24 hours and come to try and get some more information. The FAI's appointment with the Oireachtas Sport Committee will go ahead on April the 10th, a week after Sport Ireland meets the Dáil watchdog. The FAI had offered to meet on the 3rd of April, but didn't respond to requests for clarity on governance structures and a loan of 100 grand made by Delaney as CEO to the FAI. So Fergal O'Dowd yesterday asked the FAI to urgently provide the information well in advance of the April 10th meeting. So what are we at? The 28th of March. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly what the fallout of this is, because so far the board have largely been irrelevant, anonymous, but apparently this meeting happened without John Delaney being present for all of it anyway, so it's hard to know exactly what's going on. But he says they're split down the middle what's the split? Like, yes, this is okay, or we need to defend him stronger, or what is the bit that's going on?
Yeah, it's kind of like a half leak coming from that meeting the other night. The Irish Times goes with Munster record of grinding out big game wins is a huge asset. It's John O'Sullivan writing about the stats ahead of the Edinburgh game. Conan looks forward to central role, says Johnny Waterson. Jack Conan reflecting on Six Nations, where he's got more minutes than really in any other campaign. And Chris Farrell was the Munster man in front of the media yesterday. He's fired up for one of the biggest games of his career. It's Jerry Thornley writing from Thomond. Munster Centre expecting a teeth-tough challenge from Resilience Edinburgh.
Also in the back of the Times Ireland edition is FAI board in talks about Delaney role. So the newspapers are keeping up the pressure this morning. It's the back of the Mail and the back of the Times Ireland edition, and any other tabloids? Any other tabloids? Not on the front or the back of the Examiner this morning, but Gary Doyle's story is FAI board members have held formal and informal meetings over the past 48 hours as pressure intensifies on John Delaney, its former chief executive and newly appointed executive vice president, also not capitalised. Calls for the FAI to get rid of Delaney have come from prominent personalities, including Niall Quinn, Richie Sadlier, Brian Kerr and Owen Hand. And among the 57-person FAI council, there is disquiet about the recent Sunday Times revelations that Delaney had loaned the FAI 100 grand in 2017. The key fears of these council members centre on whether the FAI's reputation has been damaged by recent events, which included a protest by fans at the Aviva.
The Guardian this morning goes with a column from Bahrain. Naya Youssef on why this weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix shames sport. Every day I spend in prison stains the reputation of Formula One. And the long goodbye as well, says Jamie Jackson-Taylor to stand down, but will take PFA moderniser with him.
And finally, for now, the Irish News, or certainly tiered championship not the way McCaig. So this is Chrissy McCaig saying that tiered championship is not the correct solution to the current issues blighting the inter-county game. It's 5 minutes past 8. You're listening/watching OTBAM this morning. If you want to get in touch with us, you can drop us a comment. Use the hashtag OTBAM. Some stories?
Yeah, let's time for the Beef is Real episode 2.
The beef is real.
Yeah, the beef certainly is real. And this morning it is Eamon Dunphy against Richie Sadlier. I think back in Dunphy's days in RTE, you could tell that maybe himself and Sadlier had opposing views on certain things.
Didn't see eye to eye on everything.
Didn't see eye to eye on everything. And
what would have been the genesis of that? What would have upset Dunphy about the youth and vigour of Richie Sadlier?
Well, there's that you quite obviously point out there, but there may be a deeper route to all of this. It's in the Irish Daily Star this morning, Dunphy's exclusive column. It starts by saying, the tennis ball protesters on Tuesday night are Egypts. They represented nobody but themselves, and they proved nothing. It was childish and a stupid reaction to what is a serious problem. Now, he talks about the coverage on RTE the other night, and he says, I noted that Damien Duff and Ronnie Whelan were very strong in their condemnation of the protest. They are two great footballing people who could understand how throwing tennis balls in the pitch was counterproductive. Now, this is where I think the needle lies. What constitutes a footballing person? As for Richie Sadlier, he made an Egypt of himself. I understand Richie is trying to make a name for himself, not that he is doing a great job in that department. He was the only so-called football person to give any kind of credence to that type of carry-on. So-called football person. Great footballing people is what Whelan and Duff are. What is the difference between Richie Sadlier...
The beef is real.
...and Duff and Whelan? This nonsense of being a good footballing person or a great footballing man or a so-called footballing man, it's quite a cheap shot, isn't it? Like, what is with the footballing man snobbery? Are you a footballing man?
No. You need to have grown up in the mean streets and played ball, preferably in Drumcondra.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's it, isn't it?
That's it. That's the only category. Fair enough then. I'm not a football man. Even if I played professional football, I'm not a football man because I wouldn't have constituted that particular way of life. It was a very cheap, stupid and yobbish thing to do, he says, of the tennis ball protest.
Can we just point out, right, on, was it Saturday or Sunday, he was on Marion Finucane, Dunphy, last week?
They were actually, both sides of the beef is real were on Marion Finucane last week, I think.
Richie was as well, was he?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, he was on saying one thing on Saturday and then had changed his mind 24 hours later. It was generally about the Delaney thing. So, I mean, he's like flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flopped on this whole Delaney issue over a decade. And now, on the tennis balls, he's going to bat to try and kill Richie because Duffer and Ronnie Whelan were completely talking out of their hoops.
Well, they're better footballing men apparently, so it doesn't matter if you're talking out of your hoop because you're a footballing man. Yeah, I think it's an incredible cheap shot at Richie Sadlier. Like he does go into deeper detail about what perhaps the Irish fans could have done, the alternatives.
Come on, let's hear it because you know, obviously
there was a time and a place for protests. Why not congregate outside Abbottstown? Because that would have had the same effect, of course, in terms of protest. Now, you can give me the technical breakdown of what this is. I don't know, is it a red herring or a straw man? You have a better idea. He says, we saw the justified outrage in recent weeks when fans raced onto the pitch at St Andrews and the Emirates Stadium. Whether it's a physical assault or the throwing of tennis balls onto the pitch, footballers should have to worry about nothing other than their 11 opponents once they cross the white line. That is right. Eamon Dunphy has just put in the instance of Jack Grealish getting punched in the back of the head by a Birmingham fan in the same article as Ireland fans throwing tennis balls onto a football pitch. I'm not sure is that a straw man, but it certainly is in that category. The protest achieved nothing, he said, and it's in bold. It proved nothing other than the fact that there are a handful of Egypts following the Irish international team. Now, I'm not opposed to protest, he says in a separate paragraph. After Bloody Sunday, I wore a black armband while at Millwall. So, good footballing man, good protesting man as well. And
knows football, knows how to protest.
Yeah.
Screw you, Ireland fans. But actually, more importantly than the Ireland fans, it's screw you, Richie Sadlier. That's what he's saying.
Do you go to, if you're protesting at Abbottstown, do you bring the tennis balls and throw them out the windows?
I don't know.
Do you throw them at Delaney's car?
I don't. There's no point in protesting at Abbottstown. Abbottstown. Have you been out to the National Sports Campus?
Yeah.
It's this massive, sprawling. Like, where would you even do it? Outside the door of the FAI, the security guards would come over and like, I mean, really, lads, you've got the 6 of you there, and you've got some tennis balls. Do you want to just give me the tennis balls? Come on, this is going to get embarrassing for us. Any more stories, Owen?
Abbottstown is such
The beef is real.
The beef is real. Abbottstown is such a sprawling campus. You could actually have a parade down the road to the FAI headquarters. Liam Brady is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about Liam Brady. Because Brady says that he's obviously been part of the FAI in the past, knows it intimately. While he was there, probably didn't have that much to say about Delaney, and then comes out and says he thinks that the time for a new broom is ripe. He says the Dutch experiment has failed in his column today. Specifically, he talks about how there's no young footballers coming through the way England, for example, have young footballers coming through. The Ireland under-19s have just won every single game of their qualifying campaign. They qualified a game early. They beat Russia in Russia. They're going to the next European Championships, playing a great style of football. Like, there are a bunch of kids coming through the pathway, the under-15s league. They're all playing football properly. The joining up of the clubs and the league has really worked very well. So it's been a long 10-year process, but the Rude Doctor era is finally beginning to come to some fruition. So that part of his argument, I don't think, holds water. That's not the reason why the FAI needs new structures. It's because they have invested all the power in one individual, and that's not the right thing for any sports organisation to do. It's not a private company. It's a very important national sport held in trust by administrators, and we don't have that at the minute.
Yeah, it's a good piece. Like we touched on it earlier on about the fact that he would actually prefer change in the FAI to reaching Euro 2020. Just a quick footballing point on Liam Brady's column, because he makes an interesting one. He compares Matt Doherty to another Irish right back of recent years, which is Cyrus Christie, who of course was deployed in midfield during the end of the Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane era. And he says it could be that with more time and opportunities to experiment on the training pitch, we might yet see Doherty end up in the holding midfield role for Ireland, because I think he's good enough on the ball to play there and help us to build up from the back, which is an interesting prospect which hasn't been spoken about, that you slot him into a holding midfielder role.
The previous sentence about that was giving out about Cyrus Christie playing a holding midfielder.
Yeah, obviously Liam Brady rates the technical aspects of Matt Doherty quite a bit higher
than Cyrus Christie, yeah. But Mick's allowed to do it because Martin O'Neill's not.
You made a lot of those sort of comments this week that perhaps there's a double standard in how we treat this new shiny thing to
there's a complete double standard
thing.
in how McCarthy gets treated, primarily because he's better with the media, I think. And look, also, in fairness, he's making the team do some work on the training ground around set pieces. Like, the goal comes from a set piece off the training ground. Well, we've got some good set piece people we've got the biggest head in world football. I mean, you know, we could have done a bit more on it. So some of it's fair, some of it's just residual damage. And that's pretty much it for us from the papers. There's one last thing I wanted to talk about. It's a good piece from Michael Foley saying, switching the league to the summer would solve the calendar crisis. There are easy fixes that the GAA could do which don't involve a tiered structure, which don't involve massive revolutionary change to exactly what's out there. But we're talking about it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and nothing's getting done. Mm-hmm. So, should we keep talking about it, or should we just shut up?
Well, I think that's part of his point, isn't it? That like you don't need to come up with a shiny new structure, just flip the calendar. Now, my problem with this, first of all, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's obviously what should be done if you want an easy fix and you want something that doesn't actually require that many votes in Congress. My problem with it in terms of actually happening is that the provincial councils wield such power in these matters that they will say to themselves, really, do we want to push our competition into March, into February potentially, maybe into April? No, thank you. I want to see my crappy one-sided Munster final landslide wins in Killarney in the middle of the summer, and I'm not letting go of that sort of thing. So the provincial council is actually agreeing to that sort of thing to allow their provincial championships to be played earlier on in the